What do you make of Facebook now rating its own users' trustworthiness, which sounds a little dystopian?
It may sound dystopian, but in the same way that in the previous segment I was saying I agree with Microsoft using algorithms to identify new domains being created that need to be shut down right away, this is the same kind of proactive work. Unfortunately, we have to see happening more and more on the internet. I mean, the way Facebook disclosed it, given almost everything Facebook is doing these days, you have to question, is it for PR? Is it for effect? I mean, who knows? But do I generally agree that they should be doing it? I absolutely do. And you know, I can be plenty critical of these people. So I think we have to try new means to use every possible way to keep these systems as safe as they can be. And rating people's credibility makes sense to me.
The way that Facebook is doing in this is extensively detailed in a Washington Post article. That said, you know, it makes sense to have users flag fake news, flag offensive content, but at the same time, it's also obvious that users are going to abuse that system. So what is the solution here?
Well, I actually think it's a pretty clever idea to say, as the Washington Post explains, if someone regularly reports something as fake news or as false and it's turned out not to be false repeatedly, then their credibility in reporting that should be lower in the future. And conversely, someone who's regularly identifying something that really does have to be taken down, then that's the kind of person who should have more credibility. They need to find tools in a system with 2.25 billion users. They have to sort through the wheat from the chaff, and it's very hard.
So, you know, this at the same time, the president has continuing to beat the drum that social media sites shouldn't be in the business of regulation at all. You know, he's called out Twitter for shadow banning prominent Republicans. We just saw Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, on CNN talking about how difficult it is and how Twitter just doesn't have the resources of Facebook. So It's sort of like you get what you get.
Well, you know, I'm sympathetic to the way Jack Dorsey's been handling it, and I do think there is a feeling of arbitrariness to the way that Facebook and Twitter to some extent have been acting, although I think Twitter seems more consistent in the language Jack has been using. I mean, but is it, when President Trump says it's, quote, very dangerous that these companies are shutting down any voices, that's not the way I think it should be viewed. I think the way it should be viewed is it's very dangerous that we have systems that have emerged in society run by for-profit corporations that are effectively where speech is happening in society. That is the problem we need to address at a much more macro level than simply criticizing them when they shut down a voice that the president doesn't like. We need policy here. We need the companies to participate in policy, and we need voices, citizen voices in civic society to get involved too. I mean, there was an advocate writing an op-ed this week saying we need a citizens council of some sort to help these platforms regulate what is and is not allowed. That's creative thinking. We need more of that kind of creative thinking. It is way too opportunistic and short-term and essentially meaningless to criticize Facebook for shutting down Alex Jones and not looking at the bigger picture.
Meantime, I have this chart in my GTV library looking at Facebook user activity. We see the plateau. This is daily active use as a percentage of monthly active use. I mean, that is quite a stunning flat line there. You know, how, you know, at the same time that Facebook is trying to navigate these very tricky issues, you know, we're seeing saturation on the platform.
Well, it would be interesting to know, which only Facebook could tell us, which they won't, whether that plateau could have to do with basically less content being available that's truly incendiary, which is the kind of thing that people are most likely to click on and keep them engaged. I mean, this is the sort of devil's bargain that Facebook and Twitter, to a lesser degree, have engaged themselves in by the design of their services. They've created systems where they effectively benefit in activity when people respond with fear or anger. That's one of the fundamental problems we have to get a grip on, and that Facebook didn't truly anticipate when they essentially designed and grew this service in all geographies, no matter what. So, you know, I don't have a lot of sympathy for them, you know, and I think to some extent where it comes to investors, it's buyer beware. Zuckerberg and his team have been very clear on the last earnings call that profitability is going down and growth is going down, and that is because of many of the very smart and necessary actions they're taking. So it may be connected to that.